I know every time I'm on hosting this TV courtroom show, I always say this is the most important show of the year or the most important show ever. But I tell you, and I mean it, this today is the most important show that I've ever done here at TV Courtroom. And by the way, when I say I mean yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, AKA Michael X, AKA the angriest black man in America. And the reason why I say that this is the most important TV courtroom show I've ever done is because America is at the crossroads right now. America could either go left to democracy or it could go right to fascism. And that's no hyperbole. Let me just say this at the beginning. Thank you all very much for tuning in, brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, mothers, fathers, everybody. And please, everybody who's checking us out, please make sure that you spread the word because this is some important stuff. Now, here's how the show is going to go. I'm going to give a brief introduction for the first approximately 10 minutes. And after I do that brief introduction for approximately 10 minutes, I'm then going to have a special guest, none other than the Honorable City Commissioner Omar Sabir. In fact, City Commissioner Omar Sabir is actually the chairperson of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office. So from 3:40 to 4 p.m., you're going to be hearing some nonpartisan, objective information. Nonpartisan, objective information from City Commissioner Omar Sabir. And then after we conclude with that enlightening and informative segment with Chairman Sabir, all hell's going to break loose because I'm going to do my angry black man thing. And my angry black man thing is partisan. I wear that on my sleeve. It's anti-fascist. I wear that on my sleeve. It's anti-racist. I wear that on my sleeve. It's just going to break loose. But I want to be clear that during that approximately 20-minute segment between 3:40 and 4 p.m., it's going to be a presentation by City Commissioner Omar Sabir, and it will be nonpartisan. It will be objective. It will be straight down the road, 3:40 to 4 p.m. But again, from 4:30 to the show ends around, from 4 o'clock till about 4:30 when this show ends. Believe me, all hell's going to break loose because it's going to be my angry black man thing. It's going to be partisan. It's going to be anti-fascist. It's going to be anti-racist. And when I say the angriest black man in America, what I mean is basically what James Baldwin meant. James Baldwin said, and I'm paraphrasing, to be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. To be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. In other words, if you're black and you know about slavery, you got to be angry. If you're black and you know about sharecropping and convict leasing and Jim Crow and police brutality and capital punishment and mass incarceration, if you're black and know these things, you got to be angry. If you're not angry, there's something wrong with you. So let me do this. Let me warm you up for the show. Again, a two-part segment today. One will be City Commissioner Omar Sabir, and the other will be the Angry Black Man segment. And what this show is going to be about today is the upcoming election. And what I'm about to say, brothers and sisters, friends, relatives, family, associates, whatever, what I'm about to say is no hyperbole. It's no exaggeration. This November 5, 2024 election is the most important election since the election of Abe Lincoln and since the passage of the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, and 15th Amendment. We know about Abe Lincoln with the Civil War. Abe had his problems with race. I'm not going to get into that right now. But bottom line, Abe Lincoln was on the right side of history, the correct side of history in fighting against slavery. So I'll give Abe Lincoln thumbs up for today's program. No election since then, apart from, as I said, the election of Abe Lincoln and passage of the 13th Amendment, which basically freed Black people, the 14th Amendment, which made us citizens, and the 15th Amendment, which gave Black men the right to vote. We're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we're talking about the 1800s. So the election of November 5, 2024 is the most important election for Black people, for poor people, for women people, for gay people, for everybody in America. Everybody who's not a racist, sexist, homophobic, fascist. The reason why the election is so important is because, as I said, what happens on November 5 will determine the future of America. And when I say that I'm not engaging in hyperbole, America is where Germany was before Hitler took over. America is where Spain was before Francisco Franco took over. America is where Italy was before Mussolini took over. And as I get into the show, especially after the end of the Chairman Omar Sabir segment, I'm going to give you proof about that. I'm going to give you my endorsements about who I'm voting for. You might say, well, why should we care about who you're voting for? Well, the answer is simple. Anybody who knows me knows that I've been fighting for Black people my entire life. And not only do I fight for Black people, I always make sure that when it comes to elected officials, I don't want anything from them. I don't accept anything from them. I don't want any money, any grants, any jobs, any loans. I don't want anything from them. I don't accept anything from them. So you got me, an angry Black man who's been fighting for Black people since my college days, who has no hidden agenda. I don't get anything from politics because I don't want anything from politicians, except for liberty and justice for Black people. So based on that and based on the time I have to research the candidates, that's why. I'm going to go more into that later. But let me just tell you about our first guest who's going to come up on the screen in about 3 minutes. City Commissioner Omar Sabir, a graduate of Cheney, has been fighting the good fight for voters of all races, of all genders, of all faiths. He's been doing what needs to be done to make sure that everybody knows what their rights are. Everybody knows what to do in connection with not only the presidential election every 4 years, but as City Commissioner Omar Sabir said on my other show, my radio courtroom show. Now, mind you, this is my TV courtroom show. I also have something called the radio courtroom show, and that's on WURD 96.1 FM. That's WURD 96.1 FM. You can also catch it at WURDradio.com. That's WURDradio.com. Big shout out to our producer / engineer extraordinaire, Roland. Roland makes sure that the stuff is up on the screen. So if you don't catch what I'm saying, you can read it for yourself. By the way, each time I'm on the TV courtroom show, this TV courtroom show, I always enlighten people that in addition to watching this, you should also watch my radio courtroom show, which is on every Saturday from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. Every Saturday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. However, we're going to have a special Election Day program tomorrow. Well, an Election Day precursor program tomorrow on the radio courtroom show. So it's going to start 1 hour early. Just go to WURDradio.com for more information. As I was saying at the beginning of the show, and we're going to call up our guest Omar in about 1 minute, this election is the most important election of my lifetime, the most important election of your lifetime, and as I said, the most important election since the election of Abe Lincoln and since the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment in regard to Black people. Now remember what I said, because we're going to bring City Commissioner Omar Sabir up in just a few seconds. During his segment, he's going to do what he does as an elected public servant, as a professional. His presentation for about 20 minutes will be nonpartisan and objective. And once we hear that enlightening information from him and let him go about his business of doing the work of the people, I'm going to take over and all hell's going to break loose. I'm going to do my angry Black man thing. I'm going to do my partisan thing. I'm going to do my anti-fascist thing. I'm going to do my anti-racist thing. But at the beginning, we're going to do the City Commissioner Omar Sabir thing. So, without further ado, my good friend and hopefully yours, City Commissioner Omar Sabir, and he's also the chair of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office. Brother Sabir, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
You know,
I'm actually,
I'm so glad you said you're doing great and not just good, because you are doing great. If it's an indication by the work you do for the community, I jokingly say that you're always everywhere. And I see now you're in your car because you left one place, going to another place and doing your thing. Let me turn it over to you. This is going to be your segment for the next 20 minutes. First, tell people a little bit about the City Commissioner's Office and what it does, and then tell them what you always say to me on my radio show, that this is the most important election of our lifetime. So first, what does the City Commissioner's Office do? And two, why is this election so important?
sure. The city commissioners are a three-member bipartisan board of elected officials, and we oversee the election functions in Philadelphia County. It's made up of two Democrats, one Republican. I myself serve as the chair. Lisa Daly serves as the vice chair, and Commissioner Seth Bluestein, he's the secretary, and he's the Republican. So it's a bipartisan board. It's fair. We were established in 1711 by the state legislature of Pennsylvania. We started maintaining voter registration lists in 1789, but we didn't emerge into our current form until the 1951 adoption of the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter. So we have a lot of history with doing elections. We're not new to this, we're true to this. So the county commissioners, we've been doing this for a very long time. In fact, the board has been enacted before America. So, fair democracy is based off of fair elections. You can't have one without the other.
Oh,
And
please continue. Please continue.
as people do all of these blatant lies and misinformation, disinformation about our election process, it was designed to deactivate African American and Latino voters across the country. The claims, nefarious claims, and misinformation, disinformation that were spewed by election deniers were in cities like Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Fulton County in Atlanta, Arizona, and all of these areas are all key swing states which will decide the presidency. So, in order for these election deniers, these extremists, in order for them to win, they need lower voter turnouts in these areas, in these cities that I just mentioned.
Mm.
So that messaging was coupled on top of the messaging already that African Americans already knew whether or not they would be counting it. Would be something shiesty going on with the elections? Would my vote be counted? So they played on top of their anxieties because their anxieties and fears make you inactive. So they played on top of those fears that were already there, because African Americans were the only group in America who were targeted simply by race on their voting rights. The only demographic in the country. And so we've seen billions of dollars being spent on this, and it's designed to make you deactivated. They have paid social media influencers to tell you not to vote, to tell you that your vote don't count, to tell you to do all kind of other things. The one thing I will submit to you today: what can we do in the next 4 or 5 days that we have to Tuesday that could benefit our community like a historic voter turnout? Just think about it. Whoever wins Pennsylvania has an 80% chance to win the presidency, to have
Wow.
the balance of power in the United States Senate, the balance of power in the United States Congress, and even the balance of power in the state house. I mean, it's real close, only like 1 or 2 seats away, either way, Democrat or Republican. So you tell me if this is not the most important election. You tell me that a group of Philadelphians right here, right now, from now to Tuesday, if you have something better to do than voting, I'd like to hear it. And if you don't have a solution for us right here, right now, then shut the hell up Stop telling people not to vote, and let's get on out and let's have an historic turnout in Philadelphia so that way we can get the resources that we deserve. I believe clearly that the choice is a clear pick. I don't know why the polls are so close. It's so clear that I will never even tell you who to vote for because it's so clear. It's obvious. Stevie Wonder can see this. But yet and still, since the presidency of President Barack Obama, we have seen unprecedented racism in our country. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing people come out blatantly and just say all kind of crazy things. Like what we saw. We saw an individual call a whole entire state
Whoa.
garbage and trash, man.
Whoa.
If that couldn't be any clearer for you, I mean, I just really don't know really what to tell you. What I will tell you is this. We have a few days left. And this is going to be one on election day, whoever the winner is going to be.
Let me ask you
You know, we
about
have,
that. In terms of who's going to win, you said a number of times on my radio show that Philadelphia either will or can determine who the president is going to be. What do you mean by that?
so there are 1 million registered voters in Philadelphia. So it's real simple. I mean, however which way Philadelphia votes, Philadelphia always wins. Ever since the times of JFK, when African Americans were really, when the civil rights movement, when they was actually guaranteed their right to vote, when we saw Lyndon B. Johnson make those historic voting rights act, the black vote has always determined who the president's going to be. It's always been like that. Every election, you can look at the turnout of the African American vote, and that's going to tell you who the president is going to be. So, Philadelphia, we called on you, all 1 million of you. We want you to come out. We want you to exercise your right to vote. We want you to make a decision. And my perspective is that it's larger than just who's on the top of the ticket. Don't. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, that's a crazy. That's amazing, right? In itself, and I'm pretty sure Mike's going to tell you how amazing that is. But we want you to vote. We want you to vote for your community, right? And for you to have a decision inside of your community.
Let me
That when
jump
you
right
vote,
there, Mr. Commissioner, because what do you say? And I love the way you break it down. What do you say to people say that voting really doesn't matter? You know, I was poor 5 years ago. I was poor 10 years ago. My block was dirty 5 years ago. My block was dirty 10 years ago. Voting doesn't matter. What do you say to that person?
well, what I say is this. I say take a look at all areas that vote on a consistent basis. Look at the areas that don't vote. It's the mindset. So when you're not voting, you're surrendering. You're giving up your community. So there's a lot of parallel things that be happening all at the same time. You're giving up all hope. Someone told you that you don't count. Someone told you that you are insignificant. Someone told you that you don't matter. And I'm here to tell you that you do matter. So I'm saying, are you going to vote and then everything magically is going to happen? No, I'm telling you to vote. I'm telling you to go down to City Hall, right? Mayor Parker, she got a cleaner, greener initiative. She's giving out brooms. She's giving out all kind of stuff. She's giving out trash bags. She's giving you everything. Even if you call her up and tell her to bring a daggone trash truck to come clean your neighborhood, she's going to do it.
Great
But
point.
again, it's us taking responsibility and making decisions for our neighborhoods. And that's the higher level of politics. We are citizens. When that document says we the people, we can sit down and say, well, what is we the people? What does that mean? It's not us. Constitution said 2/3 of it. All that stuff. I understand it. I do. But there were fearless people like Octavius Catto. There were fearless people like Crispus Attucks. There were fearless people like Martin Luther King who said, you know what? We are citizens. And we do have a place here. And we are tax-paying citizens. So you're paying taxes. So exercise that right and say where you want this money to go at. What do you want the elected officials to do for your family? Do you have any businesses that you want inside your community to get going? Do you want funding for your library? Do you want to go first or do you want to go last, if ever? That's the question that we got to ask ourselves. When we call 911, do we want the police to show up fast or do we want them to do it after they finish eating their coffee and donuts? We want them to come right now. And we call an ambulance when they want to decide where they're going to build and put liquor stores at in our community. They put it in the areas that don't vote. That's what happens. They don't put it in everywhere. They say, where can we put this liquor store at? Oh, we put it in a place where they don't vote at. Oh, okay, cool, fine. They don't care about their neighbor. They can do anything. And
Mr.
so
Commissioner,
that's
I love the way you break it down. Break it down further. What do you say to people say, well, I can't get down to vote because one, I gotta work, and two, I can't go down to City Hall to vote. Isn't voting only at City Hall? What do you say to those people?
I say we have satellite locations located everywhere. If you have gotten a call now, if you already missed the deadline to vote by mail, don't worry about it. You can apply for emergency ballot. And that means that if you have an unexpected emergency, if
Love
your boss has told you that you got to come to work and you can't go vote, guess what? Apply for emergency ballot.
it.
You know, if you're feeling sick and you have to go to the emergency room, apply for the emergency ballot. If you have to leave the county for business, don't matter. Don't tell your boss no. And then don't vote. You
Mm.
can do both. You can vote,
Yes, I
right?
love it.
If you are a doctor and you have to perform a surgery on somebody, hey, guess what? Apply for that emergency ballot. It's an unexpected emergency, right? So there are plenty of ways. We don't challenge you for the emergency ballot. Your excuse is your excuse. Just fill out the application. And we
And,
have
and
11.
follow up on what you said about the satellite offices. I was joking about having to vote at City Hall, but some people might think that. What do you mean by satellite offices, and where can people vote? How many polls? How does that work? Break it down.
Sure. So we have satellite locations located all across the city of Philadelphia. All across the city of Philadelphia. We have one in each councilmatic district. So if you go to our website at vote.phila.gov, vote.phila.gov, you can find a satellite location near you. And what you're going to walk in when you walk into these satellite locations. Are you going to see a voting machine? No. But you're going to have someone there who can print out your ballot for you. So let's just say we mailed you out a ballot and you didn't receive it yet. The wife received it, the husband didn't receive it. And you get a little bit nervous because we're getting close to election day and you want your mail-in ballot. You could walk into the satellite location and someone can print out a replacement ballot. Let's just say you had let's just say you had someone who was a college student and the ballot's supposed to come to the house and you just don't know what's going on. Come on down to satellite. They'll make a request for a replacement ballot and they'll print it right on the spot. And then again, if you need that emergency ballot, we can print it out. If you have a loved one who suddenly gets incarcerated over the weekend, they're planning on voting
Mm,
on Tuesday,
mm.
November the 5th, but then they get incarcerated. What do? They can still vote. Just tell a lawyer, tell the family, tell the guard, tell the warden, tell the counselor, tell anybody, the booking aide, the arrest officer that's booking them, tell them, hey, I would like my voting rights. Let's make sure we make that happen. And we can make sure that you get an emergency ballot so that way you can cast your ballot.
Beyond the emergency ballot, I love the way you break it down, Mr. Commissioner. Talk about people who have been convicted of crimes. What are their rights?
Their rights are just like everybody else. We like to thank, as always, Malik Aziz, God rest his soul, and Jerry Montefiore, the former president of
Yes.
the NAACP. They filed at the Commonwealth Court, and it was actually an African American female judge who actually saw, that and it was fair, and that once you have served time, even if you've been convicted of a felony offense, you can you can vote. So once your feet hit the streets, you can compete, right? And even if you are currently incarcerated and you have been charged with a felony, you can still vote. If you've been convicted of a misdemeanor and you're serving time, you can still vote. You can still vote. So again, even if you missed that deadline, you can still apply for that emergency ballot while you're incarcerated because you're incarcerated. If you change your mind, you say, "Hey, I want to do this." You are not able to attend the poll on Tuesday, November the 5th. You can request that sort of emergency ballot. So we're encouraging everyone to apply as soon as you possibly can. As soon as you decide that you want to do it, let's do it. Right. And then
Mr.
the only
Commissioner, you gave us that website. Give us the website again. And also for those who are intimidated by website, give us the phone number as well.
Sure, you can call us at 215-686-3462. That's my office number. Of course, I know we're talking to our Michael Core family, so I'm going to give you our office number. 215-686-3462. Give us a call. My email address is Omar, OMAR Sabir at Phila.gov. Omar, OMAR Sabir at Phila.gov. And also, if you're trying to call in and the line is busy, because we're getting inundated with calls, we have 1 million voters, so everybody's calling. Visit the satellite locations too. This is a short drive. It's accessible to the public. You have a person in live person to answer all your questions. That's another reason. Like we like to have people that you can talk to. Because I don't like to call. I don't like to search internet. When I got something that I'm nervous about, I want to see a live person and feel a live person. And so if you live up in the Northwest, I mean, we got a location up there. We got a location in West. We got a few locations in West Philly, North Philly, Southwest, South Philly, the far Northeast. You know, coming down City Hall is a thing of the past. You don't have to come all the way down City Hall. You know, because if you think about it, Mike, if you live in the far Northeast
Yep.
or the far
Yep.
Northwest, it might take you driving on the right day. It'll take you an hour to get down to City
Yep.
Hall. And then you have
Yep.
to worry about parking. You have to worry about all this other stuff. No, it's literally locations. They're in like shopping centers that close to the public transportation, and it's free parking at all our locations. So please take advantage. Let's fight the misinformation. Let's fight the disinformation. But looking at these numbers, Mike, this is going to be won or lost on Tuesday, November the 5th, on Election Day. That's going to be the time. Polls open up at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. So if you want to know where your polling locations are, go to our website at vote.phila.gov, vote.phila.gov. We have a website. All you got to do is type your name in there and your address, and it'll tell you where your polling locations are. It will give you Uber directions, driving directions. You can do all that stuff. You can everything on it. You can click right on it, and it'll take you right to that polling location. And we highly suggest that before you go out, that you look for your polling location, because sometimes people get frustrated. They go to the wrong polling location, and then they think, "Oh man, it's voter suppression." No, you just went to the
Yeah.
wrong polling location. That's all. That's all.
Those of you who just tuned in, you're watching and listening to City Commissioner Omar Sabir, Chairman of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office. Remember that website, vote.phila.gov. That's vote.phila.gov. And the phone number, 215-686-3462. 215-686-3462. We have about 4 or 5 minutes left, Mr. Commissioner. Tell folks what other positions are on the ballot. It's not just president. Who else? What else?
So you have the United States Senate, which is very critical because that's going to be the balance of the United States Senate power. So it's very close. So you pick who's going to be in charge of the Senate, right? So you have 100 senators, and if it's at 51, then they control they're going to control the Congress, but they're going to control the Senate. Now the vice president is the tiebreaker. So if it's tied, whoever you put in there, that vice president is going to be the tie. Is going to be the vote they can decide whatever law, legislation, funding change, whatever comes through, they'll make that decision. So that's the United States Senate. We also have United States Congress. So the Congress is very close. It's not that far. Democrats have a small advantage. So if you're up to their home, especially out in the suburbs, those people listening, Monco, Delco. I mean, Philadelphia is pretty safe, but if you go out, you know, all your family and friends that live out all over the state. If you don't, you know, you might lose some seats there, and then, you know, you may lose power of that. And we also have our state house as well. Same sort of predicament. The Democrats, we have House Leader McClinton. We have Rep. Jordan. You know, they're in control right now, but it's only by about 2 votes. So if y'all fall asleep, you can see a change there. If you say, okay, my vote don't count, and just sit at home,
But
you know,
let me
not voting.
quickly interject, Mr. Commissioner. Once you get off, I'm going to do my angry black man thing with my endorsement list. And I'm going to tell them who they should vote for based on my experience. Now, that's me talking. It's not you. You're nonpartisan. You're objective. I'm not. All hell's going to break loose when you finish your presentation. Speaking of your presentation, Mr. Commissioner, a couple of things I'm going to ask before we wrap it up. The first thing is, talk to people who think that you only vote every 4 years.
Now, there's election every 6 months. So sometimes it's more frequent than every 6 months. We just had a special election, right? And here's how like, you know, we did a special election. So Donna Bullock and Steve Kinsey had retired. So if they would have went back into power, the Republicans would have been in control. So don't say that one vote don't matter. And what does it mean when Republicans or Democrats control? It's a big difference. No matter what you believe in, whoever's in control or had a majority, that matters. You talk about billions of dollars at stake, not millions. You're talking about billions of dollars that's at stake for your community based off of who's in control, who's not inside control. All right. And so we had to get that election certified right before this election. So now let's just think. Now, if y'all would have elected, right, a county commissioner or county commissioners who didn't know what they was doing, they wouldn't be able to certify it in time, and they wouldn't have been able to do their schedule in time, and then the
Mm.
Republicans would have been in control. So he was able to certify it in time, but again, elections matter. Like everything is voted on, like in Pennsylvania. The election board that you walk into, the judges of election, they are elected positions. We don't pick them. They're elected by the people that live inside of that division. There's over 1,703 divisions. Y'all determine the winner of a division. Y'all give us the election results, and then we post it up in Philadelphia County. So you elect your election commissioners. We don't report to the mayor. We don't report to the governor. We don't report to the president. We report to you, the citizens of Philadelphia. So this is when people say things like the birthplace of democracy. This is what
Mm-hmm.
that means. It's for the people, by the people. So you have a decision. You have been made aware of this, right? You know what election day is. You know what's going on. At the end of the day, you want to sit this out and surrender and give up your rights. That's on you. But we're not going to make that. That's not going to happen. Right now,
I hear
everybody's
you.
excited, and I heard it. So now you all have marching orders. And these marching orders right now, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and you're watching this, I want you to at least call 10 friends. That's all. Send out a text right now and tell them that it's important for me that you go out and vote. Tell them for more information, go to vote.phila.gov, and you can put that all in your text. Just 10 friends. And then make sure that those people in your family go out and vote. You can do that. You have the
Mm-hmm.
authority. We have allowed voting to become optional in our families, and it's not. We're a minority group. And in a city like Philadelphia, where you have the minorities who's the majorities, meaning there's more African Americans, more Latinos, and more Asians than anybody. However, we don't vote like we are, so we don't see the contracts that we deserve. It's unfair to say we only got 2% of the contracts. Yeah, but you not voting, man. What do you think this is, man? This is not a joke. This is not a game.
I love
The
it.
people
I
that's getting
love
the
it.
contracts is the ones that's voting. And if they don't have enough, they spend their money on campaigns and candidates and all other kind of stuff to try to make them do the policies. But what happens, even if somebody's a billionaire, that elected official's not going to do it because they're going to say the people in my district, they're not going to go for it. I'm sorry. I mean, keep your $1 billion. It's nothing I could do. But if y'all not voting, I mean, come on, man. They're going to take the
I
billion
love
dollars.
I
They're
love the
going
way
to
you
take it
break it
and they're
down.
going to, you know what I mean? So let's go, y'all.
I
Let's go
love the way you
empower.
break it down, and I love your passion because it shows that you're serious about this. Mr. Commissioner, we run out of time, but I want you to do this. One, repeat that website, repeat that phone number, and give us a 2-minute closing argument. You know that in courtrooms, TV courtroom as well, we
Yes, yes.
do an argument. So again, website, phone number, and a 2-minute closing argument so that people can understand what you've been talking about for the last 20 minutes.
Sure. Website is vote.phila.gov. Vote. vote.phila.gov. Vote.phila.gov. You could just Google us. Just Google commissioners, Google elections, Google Philadelphia, Omar Sabir. It's all gonna pop up if you forget. My closing argument would be this. It's very
Oh, your
simple.
phone number, your phone number
Phone number
quickly.
215-686-3462. 215-686-3462. And my email address is Omar, OMAR, .Sabir at Phila.gov. Omar, OMAR, Sabir at Phila.gov. We check the email 24 hours a day. Send us an email, leave us your phone number. We respond. We will call you. Um, my closing argument is very simple. We already tried not voting, and we see what conditions we had from not voting. We say things like, we voted for this person and they ignored us. No, let's be honest. A few of us voted, not you. You didn't
Mm.
vote.
Mm.
You're telling lies. And that's the reason why our schools are not where we want them to be at. That's the
Mm.
reason why our potholes are not being filled. That's the reason why.
Mm.
So let's
Mm.
take on some accountability because we have 1 million voters and the same 250 to 300,000 people vote every single election. That's the reason why you're not getting mail. That's the reason why you're getting ignored. You already tried that. And the beautiful thing is we have automated, almost automatic registration. So you're registered. We have a million of them. You're registered. So what we want you to be is activated. Find out where your polling locations are. Come on out to vote. I know you may have not even voted in the last 4 years. It's all right. Don't worry about it. We want to look forward in progress. You count. We need to hear from you. Come on out and vote on Tuesday, November the 5th. The weather's going to be nice. It's not going to be raining. That's not our forecast
Mm,
right now. We see
mm.
all this beautiful weather. We had no rain, and I don't know how long when. So I think that's a sign. Let's take advantage, y'all.
And I think that's a great closing argument. Correction, I know that's a great closing argument. City Commissioner Omar Sabir, chairman of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office, reach him at 215-686-3462. That's 215-686-3462, or get more information at vote.phila.gov. And by the way, City Commissioner Omar Sabir is always a guest on my radio courtroom show. So check him out tomorrow at about 2 o'clock, 2:15. Final 10 seconds, Mr. Commissioner. I understand you have a show on WRD. When and where can people check that out?
They can check us out 8 o'clock tomorrow. We answer our questions online. We don't shy away from questions. We answer them right on live because we know that a lot of people may have these questions. So give us a call. We'll be on WRD tomorrow. We'll have no commercial breaks. We go straight through from 8 a.m. To 9 a.m. And I know we're going to have the president from the National Urban League. He will be on. The top guy from all over the country. He's going to be calling in, spending some time with us tomorrow. But we'll have a guest, but we'll also answer questions, and we want to hear from you.
Great stuff from a great man and a great public servant, City Commissioner Omar Sabir. Thank you very much, sir. We don't want to hold you up. I know you got 50 other places to go and 50 other things to do, and you do them well. Thank you very much, sir. Great information from City Commissioner Omar Sabir. As he pointed out, just go to that website, vote.phila.gov. As I pointed out during his segment, and by the way, it was so impressive that we extended it for about 7-8 minutes. That was the nonpartisan segment. That was the objective segment. And now that City Commissioner Omar Sabir is gone and people can't blame him for what I do, now we're going to turn it over to the angry black man segment, the partisan segment, the anti-fascist segment, the anti-racist segment for the next approximately 18, 19 minutes. And it starts like this. I got to start out by quoting the greatest thinker in American history, at least when it comes to black people, none other than Malcolm X, El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz. He gave a speech back in 1964. It's actually two speeches, one on April 3 in Cleveland, 1964. The other was April 12, about a little over a week later in Detroit. And both speeches come together and are historically known as the Ballad or the Bullet. And very simply, here's what Malcolm said. Black folks need change, we all agree. That change can come about only by the ballot or the bullet. And even Malcolm conceded that we can't take seriously the bullet because we'd lose that. For every gun that black folks got, white folks got 1 million. For every soldiers black folks got, the white folks got 1 million. So not only would it be unethical, it would be impractical. Now remember, we still need that change. The way to get it is the ballot or the bullet. I just told you we can't do the bullet. So what's the only remaining option? It's the ballot. That's the only way we can do it. And not only is that the only way we can do it, there are actually 3 important reasons why we must do it. 3 important reasons why we must use the ballot. First one is people often say that our ancestors died for the right to vote. No, our ancestors didn't die for our right to vote. Our ancestors were brutally murdered for our right to vote. Imagine seeing your mother and father trying to go into a voting booth and a white man just brutally murders your mom and pop before they get a chance to cast their ballot. Now, 3-4 years later, when you're old enough to vote, it's your opportunity. But you say, nah, I'm not voting. You just defiled and desecrated and demeaned the memory of your beloved mother and father. They literally were murdered for your right to vote, and you won't take advantage of it. So reason number 1 why you must vote, let me show you what I got here. I vote, I must. The reason why you must vote, number 1, because your ancestors were murdered for your right to vote. Number 2, in regard to voting, the more you vote, the more you increase your chances of being on the jury. How do they get people's names to even send jury notices to get on a jury? Well, it's from the voter registration, it's from the motor vehicle list, and it's from the voter registration list. That's how they get it. So when the system wants to pick out people to potentially be on juries, they go to the motor vehicle list and they go to the voter list. So the more you vote, the greater chance you get to be on a jury. So when you see all these injustices, those of you who are old enough to know about Rodney King, if you had been on that jury, he wouldn't have been acquitted. When people like Mumia Abu-Jamal are found guilty and sentenced to death row, you could have been on that jury. So my point is, you gotta vote in order to increase your chance of being on a jury to bring about justice. So remember, first reason, your ancestors were murdered. Second reason, you increase your chances of being on a jury. And the third reason is this. The first rule of warfare is to find out what your enemy doesn't want you to do, and that's what you do. If your enemy is weak on air attacks, you send your Air Force. If your enemy is weak on land attacks, you send your Army. If your enemy is weak on sea attacks, you send your Navy. So you find out what is it that your enemy doesn't want you to do, and then you do that thing. Well, in America, your enemy doesn't want you to vote. How do I know that? A number of ways. Let me give you one example. Since the 2020 election, when Biden beat Trump, Republicans in 40 states on the local level, state level, and federal level introduced 301 bills in order to restrict or limit or cancel out your right to vote. Let me repeat that and say it slowly. Since Biden beat Trump in 2020, Republicans in 40, that's 40 different states across the country on the local level, the state level, and the federal level introduced 301 bills to take away your right to vote. So clearly your enemy doesn't want you to vote, so that's why you should vote. I'm trying to make sure I can squeeze in as much of this stuff as possible because I want people to understand why voting is so important. And in this case, why voting for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris over Donald Trump is so important. And by the way, this is just my position. This is not necessarily the position of the TV station here, Philly Cam. It's not the position necessarily of WRD or the Philadelphia Tribune or any other entity I'm involved with. This is just me, Michael X, the angriest black man in America, based on my experience and my research and my expertise, giving you the information. So why do I say that you must vote for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris? And by the way, I don't call her Kamala. And by the way, one other thing I want to say before I get into it, I don't call her Kamala just Kamala because when we talk about men running for office, we always use their last name. You know, we call them Clinton, we call them Nixon, we call them Reagan, we call them Trump. But when we got a sister, a woman running, we call her Kamala. You know, let's show some respect. And in terms of even greater disrespect, those who mispronounce her name is not Kamala. And it's very easy to remember. Just remember the punctuation, comma, la, comma, la. That's why I call her Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. The reason why we was make sure that we vote for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is because not only is the other guy a racist, he's a racist and a fascist. What's a racist? Somebody who discriminates against you because of your color. What's a fascist? It's a dictator, a right-wing dictator who tolerates no opposition. That's a fascist. So Donald Trump is a racist and a fascist. Again, this is my personal position. This is not necessarily the position of Philly Cam or WRD Radio or the Philadelphia Tribune or any other. This is just me talking. So when I say the reason why we have to vote for her and not him is because he's a racist. You want proof that he's a racist? Guess what? The KKK endorsed him in 2016. The KKK endorsed him in 2020. And the KKK is endorsing him again in 2024. David Duke, the former Grand Dragon of the KKK, has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump. So if you know that, and you do now, because I'm telling you, why would you, as a Black person whose ancestors were lynched by the KKK, why would you vote for the same guy that they endorse? Think about it. This same guy who's endorsed by the KKK said that Nazis are very fine people. Well, you know what Nazis do to Black people, don't you? Why would you vote for that guy? In the same way that the KKK endorsed Donald Trump, so does the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police. That's the cops. And Donald Trump already said he wants to give the cops absolute immunity. That means when they kill somebody like George Floyd, somebody that looks like me and you, they don't get any prosecution. They don't get any charges. They don't get any jail. They get nothing because they got absolute immunity. That's what Donald Trump said he wants to give the police. And you as a Black man, you as a Black woman, you want to vote for that guy? There's got to be something wrong with you. And speaking of that guy, he's the same guy that wanted to kill Black kids. You all remember the Central Park Five, the 5 Black and Latino kids from New York who were falsely accused of raping a white woman. We know it was false because the man who did it, he confessed. The man who did it, DNA matched. So clearly the Central Park Five, as they were called, now they're the innocent 5, the vindicated 5. They were about to be lynched by the public because Donald Trump put out a full-page ad in a New York newspaper calling for the death penalty for these innocent children. That's why he's a racist. He also is a racist because he supports Project 2025. Project 2025 is a plan to basically throw Black people back into the Jim Crow status. Part of that Project 25 also wants to expand the death penalty. You know, when we talk about the death penalty, we're talking about Black men primarily. So Donald Trump wants to kill more Black men by expanding the death penalty. I know we don't have a whole bunch of time. I got about maybe 10 minutes left. So let me do this. I write a weekly column in the Philadelphia Tribune. And what I want you to do is write this down. Write phillytrib.com. That's phillytrib.com. And once you write down phillytrib.com, and our producer / engineer extraordinaire Roland put that up. Once you write down phillytrib.com, just go to that website and type in CORD, C-O-A-R-D, CORD, C-O-A-R-D. And I've written probably about 200 or 300 articles for the Tribune. But I want you to get these 6. Get the one dated October 14 of 2018. October 14 of 2018. It's entitled Non-Voting Blacks Commit Suicidal Lynchings. Again, phillytrib.com, CORD, C-O-A-R-D, go to October 14, 2018. Then go to a second one, that's April 14 of 2019. April 14 of 2019. That's entitled Black Voting Must Be Chess, Not Checkers. Another article written by me. And then there's one from May of 2022. That's May 1 of 2022. That's entitled My Anti-Maggot, that's the Make America Great people, My Anti-Maggot, Anti-Racist, Anti-Fascist, Anti-Misogynistic Election Endorsements. Check that out. There's 3 more. There's another one on October 16 of 2022. October 16, 2022, entitled Endorsements to Stop Republicans' Fascism and Legislative Lynchings. Get that from October 16, 2022. And more recently, the final 2 are from this year, 2024. I write weekly columns for the Philadelphia Tribune. And this one is dated October 20 of 2024. October 20 of 2024, entitled My Endorsement List, Vote or Betray Your Murdered Ancestors. I'm going to come back to that. And then the final one is probably the most recent one. That's from October 27 of 2024. And I asked the question, have some Black male voters lost their minds? Because too many Black male voters said they're going to vote for Trump. Now, that percentage is only 16, but that 16% is 16% too high. What is wrong with that 16% of Black men who think that a racist should be president? And by the way, I said that this is going to be a partisan presentation because I'm going to tell you now, unlike City Commissioner Omar Sabir, he's a public servant, an elected official. He can't tell you who to vote for, but damn it, I can. And I'm telling you to vote for a number of candidates because it's not just the presidential spot that's open, it's several others. But at the top, is Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, who you should vote as a Black person, as a brown person, as a yellow person, as a red person, as a woke white person. You ought to vote for her. Let me just read part of this. This is from October 20 of this year. My endorsement list: vote or betray your murdered ancestors. In my final approximately 5 minutes, let me just share part of this. And it says that I'm endorsing Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. And I say to people, the reason why you should accept my endorsement is this. Let me read what I wrote down. Now, allow me to humbly offer my endorsements in the upcoming November 5 election. Why me, you might ask? Who do I think I am, you might ask? Why should you accept my endorsements, you might ask? Well, here's why. To whom much is given, much is required. I've been a trial attorney for more than 30 years, an adjunct college professor of Black history for over 15 years, a cultural and historical activist since my college days, a radio and TV host for more than 15 years, a newspaper columnist for more than 10 years, and an African descendant throughout my entire life. And this is important, what I'm about to share with you. Furthermore, in the words of the great Congressperson Shirley Chisholm, I am unbought and unbossed because I neither request nor accept money, jobs, grants, or any other personal benefits whatsoever from any candidate or any elected officials. In other words, I have no selfish interest and no ulterior motives. Let me just read another quick part of this before we wrap this up. And here's what I write. Based on all those blessings, I've been in a position to access and uncover information that can bring about justice, equity, and eventually liberty for all Black folks. Accordingly, prior to each election, I used all that information to compile my endorsement list. Why? Well, there are two reasons. The first one is many Black voters asked me to. The second is, unlike the average voter, I have the time and resources to research the candidates. So I start out with President, Madam Vice President Kamala D. Harris. And here's what I write, because I'm a progressive, I'm a leftist, I'm a revolutionary. People say, well, how can you support a Democrat if you're all those things? Well, here's the answer. I know Kamala Harris is not Angela Davis. I know she's not Assata Shakur. I know she's not Fannie Lou Hamer, but she is qualified, experienced, and knowledgeable. And more important, she's the only person that can beat Donald Trump. You got to get this article from October 20 of this year, because not only includes who's running for president, and I'm endorsing Madam Vice President Kamala Harris for president, but it also lists the vice president, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, Pennsylvania Attorney General, Pennsylvania Auditor General, Pennsylvania Treasurer, Pennsylvania Senate, and Pennsylvania House. You can get it by reading that article October 20 of this year, or just email me and I'll get it to you. Email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Cord, C-O-A-R-D, letter X as in Malcolm X, over this shoulder. michaelcordx@gmail.com, and I'll get that endorsement list to you. There's so many reasons why we must do the right thing on or before November 5. And by the way, I identified myself as a progressive, as a leftist, as a revolutionary, and I conceded that Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is not Assata Shakur. She's not Angela Davis. So people say, Mike, if you're really a progressive, a leftist, and a revolutionary, why are you endorsing an establishment Democrat? Well, the first answer, obvious answer, is she's the only person that can beat Donald Trump. Simple as that. If Assata Shakur ran, she'd get crushed. If Angela Davis ran, she'd get crushed. And we'd have an orange fascist in the White House. So because Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is the only, I repeat, the only person who can beat Donald Trump, we got to support her. Now, I know many of you say, well, what about Dr. Cornel West? I am so disappointed with Dr. Cornel West, because what he's doing could cause Trump to win. And if you don't believe me, go back in history, go back to year 2000, where Ralph Nader was a progressive. Now, Ralph Nader was the guy who fought for consumer rights. So Ralph Nader was the guy who was anti-establishment. He was fighting for the common man and the common woman. A great guy that did some great stuff. Then he decided because of ego or arrogance to run for president in the year 2000. And he's the reason that George W. Bush beat Al Gore. Let me break down the numbers for you because numbers don't lie. Ralph Nader got 2.74% of the vote. Let me repeat that. Ralph Nader got 2.74% of the vote. George Bush got 47.9% of the vote, which was actually less than Al Gore got at 48.4%. So again, write down the numbers. Ralph Nader got 2.74% of the votes. That's about 2.8 million votes. George Bush got 47.9% of the vote. That's about 50.5 million votes. Interestingly enough, Al Gore got a higher percentage than George Bush. Al Gore's numbers was 48.4%, and Al Gore got more votes than George Bush, about 500,000 more at 50.9. But none of that stuff matters. And the reason why none of that stuff matters, when it comes to who's going to be the president, it's based on the Electoral College. And when it comes down to Electoral College, you got to get 337. Well, the problem is that because Ralph Nader was involved, he caused Al Gore to lose a number of Electoral College votes. So despite the fact that Al Gore had a higher percentage, despite the fact that Al Gore got more votes, Al Gore got fewer Electoral College votes. I don't have enough time to explain it to you, but it all comes down to who gets the most number of Electoral College votes. And Al Gore got 266. George W. Bush got 5 more at 271. And it's only because Ralph Nader, who knew he couldn't win, but stayed in the election, caused Al Gore to lose to George Bush. And because of that, we got a horrible attorney general in John Ashcroft. We also got a lot of other horrible appointees. So elections matter, and the president matters. And what my beloved friend, Dr. Cornel West, is about to do in 2024 is the same thing, the very same thing that Ralph Nader did in year 2000. So I wish Brother Cornel West and Dr. Jill Stein, I wish they would just, even now, just get out of the way. And they don't have to support Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, but by staying in, they could help Donald Trump win. So it's important, and I'm going to wrap it up. I did a speech at Dr. Molefi Asante's Institute, and here's what I said at the end. I'm encouraging all leftists and progressives and revolutionaries not to be emotional purists. I'm asking them to do the right thing, because they do the right thing and we get Madam Vice President Kamala Harris in, we can live to fight another day. But if that fascist Donald Trump gets in, protesting and demonstrating and resisting could actually be outlawed. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to end today's show like I end every show. It goes like this. Think Black. I'm out.